fair to say that Ian Maatsen made a massive impact on the game against Leicester City. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about Villa's system. We're going to talk about Villa's shape. We're going to reflect on the game against Leicester, but we're also going to talk about and look ahead to how teams are setting up at Villa Park and what we've got to do as a football team to navigate the low block, the mid block, the sense that teams feel coming to Villa Park is such a difficult place to get the victory that they are making it very difficult for Aston Villa to play. So we're going to go through it. We're going to take a real in-depth look on the tactical pad, and then we're going to have a look at the screenshots as well. So if you are new around here, make sure you are subscribing. This is the tactical debrief where we go a little bit deeper and look more tactically what has been involved in the game that we've just seen. So subscribe to the channel if you're new, comment your thoughts, and let's have a light target of 700 on this video. So we're going to get stuck into it then. So we're going to take a look first at the passing network against Leicester City and what are the key things that are standing out for me in the game that we saw against Leicester that we won 2-1. So the bigger the line, the thicker the line shows the more passes going to that player. So I think on balance, what is quite good within this network is that we've got width. So we've got the width with Digne, and we've got the width with Leon Bailey, number 31. You can also see a build-up shape with Emi Martinez to Tyrone Mings. We've got Mings and Konsa with a big one, a big network. We've got Cash, and I know what you're thinking, so stop it. We've got Cash and Konsa with a really dense line with each of us. So there's a big partnership there. And we've got Tyrone Mings to Luca Dean with a big network through there. And then we've got a lot of triangles. The triangles are good. We want to see lots of triangles with Digne, with Barkley, with Mings. We want to see them with Ollie Watkins. We want to see them with Kamara, Cash, Bailey, etc. So in that aspect, it's quite a good network. We'd want to see a little bit more from Ollie Watkins, more balls going into Watkins with different link up with different players. But really what you can see, you've got Mings and then you've got Barkley that are going into Ollie Watkins as well. And this really leads me on to talking about the fact that the left-hand side has to be a lot more attacking. Now, if we take a look at the tactical pad, what you can see is that this is pretty much where Leicester were setting up against Aston Villa. So they were in a 4-4-2, sort of mid-block. What they were doing and what a lot of teams have been doing against Aston Villa is they have been blocking out the passing lanes to our double pivot. So what that means is what you'll see is whether it's our goal kicks or whether it's from open play, you'll see two players that will go in front of Kamara and in front of Barkley. Obviously, sometimes it's Tielemans as well. Now, what that stops Villa being able to do is play through the centre of the pitch. Aston Villa want to play through the centre. That's where we've had a lot of joy. We want to be able to play the ball into Barkley. The ball then goes into a Ramsey or a Rodgers, and then we're able to play through teams really quickly and just be really direct. That's pretty much one of our big playbooks that we like to do. But what teams are doing against Aston Villa, whether it's goal kicks playing out from the back or it's open play, they're blocking that passing lane. So by teams blocking out that passing lane, it's sometimes very difficult for us to go into central midfield with Barkley or with Kamara. What that means then is that what we do see a lot of the time is we see Mings on the ball quite a lot. We see Konsa on the ball quite a lot. So if I just move that, so we see Konsa on the ball a lot, and then we see Cash on the ball. And we're moving the ball around the back to open up space and find the right angles for us to be able to play either out wide or find players in the middle. So when you see us with Mings knocking it around and having the ball and we go left to right, we're trying to find that right opening. And that's generally because we've been blocked out through central midfield. Now, the general shape of us in possession will be a three at the back. The three at the back will be Mings, it'll be Konsa, and then it'll be Cash, the one that's sort of coming in and tucking in that side. That is, in essence, the shape that we're trying to get into. We're trying to get into the three at the back, and then we're trying to get into a front five shape. Now, the front five shape comes from Digne, Ramsey, Watkins, Tielemans, and Bailey. So the width out wide comes from Digne, it comes from Bailey. And then you've got the three in the middle, which will be Watkins, Tielemans, and Ramsey. And that's our front five. That's the shape that we're trying to get into. Now, what is happening at times, and especially against Leicester, is that the ball will go out wide. So it'll go out wide to Digne, and we won't be brave enough, quick enough. We won't try and take on Justin. We will just knock it backwards, and we end up going back into that shape with someone like Tyrone Mings on the ball there. And then we're having to go back to Konsa, back to Cash, if these are being then pressed, and we go into the opposite side. Now, my big frustration against Leicester was if we are asking our right-sided player, Bailey, to take players on, Bailey, for whatever you think of Bailey, when he gets the ball, he does try to beat his man. So I think, you can be critical and say he doesn't beat his man, he doesn't do it quick enough, he's not getting to the byline, etc. I think all of that is fair at times, but he is trying to go past a player. But where I've got a little bit of a fundamental problem at the minute is that the opposite side isn't even trying to do what Bailey's trying to do. And yes, it's because Digne's a fullback. But if we've got a system where it's not fluid and it's a little bit static, and we're coming up against a team with a low block or a mid block who are sitting in a 4-4-2 shape, we've got to be slightly braver on the ball. Now, I know I mentioned on the match reaction that there's games where we're getting caught, but we have got to try and be expressive at the same time, because what can end up happening is if we do get into a good area on the left and then it goes backwards, there was times against Leicester where we got into a decent position. There was green grass in front of us and we've just slowed it down completely. But then within that, we do need to see a little bit more movement from Ramsey, from Watkins and Tielemans. Those players that have got to sometimes drop a little bit deeper, or just make that little run, or make that little movement, or just make that little peel off run. And there was times in the game where players were making runs. Bailey was making this little run. He was arcing this little run in behind the fullback or in behind the centre half, and we just weren't playing the ball. So we've got players that are making runs, but we're not even playing them in. So I think that's a big problem as well. So, I've not got a problem with the control, the football being a little bit slower, but when we get into good areas, we've got to utilise the ball more. And I think that's what we've got to do a little bit better. Emery wants the players to win all of their individual duels with the opposition players. He's absolutely massive on players winning duels. Like I've got here, I wasn't going to talk about it actually, but Rodgers did an interview with Gary Lineker on the Rest is Football, and he was talking about what's expected of him. And he was saying that Rodgers' individual duels, he needs to wriggle and roll his player, whether it's man-to-man, he needs to beat his man. He puts responsibility on him to win his battles. He sees it as you v him against the opposition. The middle of the park is crowded, but you've got to be brave on the ball. And if you lose the ball, it doesn't matter. You just got to go again. You've got to just keep trying hard to beat the player that's in front of you. And I think at times we've just got to be a bit braver, because you saw from the possession stats and how much of the ball we're having. Like we're absolutely like bossing possession. We're making over 600 passes in a game, but there's just got to be that little bit more. I think that little bit more creativity and take a little bit more of a risk at times in the right areas. So that's not saying play risky passes across your own goal or risky passes in central midfield. It's playing like creative passes that are risky enough that you're obviously not going to get caught with. But so that's how I feel really. I just think out wide, especially on that left hand side, we need to be a bit better. And this is where I think the conversation for Maatsen to start games at Villa starts to come into it, because that little 15-minute cameo, it's just showed me so much of what he's all about. And we'll run through the goals and we'll see what happened with the goals as well. So here we have got not the first goal. Here we've got the first goal. Actually, watching this goal back, he absolutely smacked this. It was a great finish, and the keeper had got absolutely no chance. So it was a really good strike from Barkley, who had a really good game in central midfield. Probably his best game for Villa this season. All round, didn't give the ball away. His passing accuracy was sensational in a tight midfield against a team that was sitting really deep, not allowing us to have, too much space and time on the ball. It was very difficult for us to play through Leicester, and I thought him and Kamara, their passing was like brilliant, and especially Kamara when he sort of steps on it and plays those balls in behind. It really, really good. Right, so we 1-0 up and we do this. Now, this is a bad goal for us to concede for being in this position, because we've got one big problem before we even go any further, and that's Luka Dean. Now, he's not at fault here. We are attacking and he's in an advanced position, but he's out of position now because we've lost the ball. And Watkins, you can see that he's more focused on doing this than making sure that pass is correct. You can see that as soon as the ball's left his foot, he's turned and he's on his bike. So I think, yeah, it's not great, is it, for Watkins? I think when I look at strikers across the Premier League, and this is where Duran is actually really good. You look at players like Isak, Harry Kane, João Pedro. You look at all of the top strikers, when they're in and around this area here, and they're just popping balls off, that they actually are playmakers, because their weight of pass is always brilliant. It's always to the feet. It's always got the right pace on it. They've got really good vision, especially Isak. So it was a bad mistake for Watkins to sell Tyrone Mings short. And he has sold him short. And we we did have a big problem, but we could have had an even worse of a problem to start with, because we could have been bang out of position. And looking at this here, we're actually not that badly set, because we've got two players here who are in a decent position. We've got our back three, which should be in a decent position as well. And then even when we get to this byline here, look, he's got nobody to cross the ball to. Vardy is brilliant here, by the way. His movement is absolutely fantastic, because as soon as that ball leaves Ayu's foot, Vardy makes this little S-shaped run. So he goes outside of Kamara, inside Kamara, and then outside of Konza. And it's a brilliant run from Vardy. Like, he's a striker that just wants to get on the end of stuff. But I'd be looking at this as well. I'm thinking, Kamara, could you not have just stayed goal side of Vardy and blocked him off a little bit and just used your body to get in front of him? But we allow Vardy to run through the middle of Kamara and Konsa. And if you're saying, Konsa's position is it's okay, I think. He's got to go to the ball, but Vardy beats him to it. And Emi Martinez pulls off a wonderful save. and it just happens to fall to Mamadivi at the sort of like the far post, and he's able to slot it in. So it's fortunate that it falls to that player at his foot. Of course, it would. There's not much Cash can do. He's on the blind side here. You can see he's looking at the ball. He's probably going to turn around, goes through his legs. So it's unfortunate. I think that it falls to Mavadidi, but I do think for being in this position, not here, this position here, we probably should deal with that a little bit better. We are set pretty well. I think there was a goal. Was it the Brighton goal or another game that I did a bit of a reaction or a debrief, and I was saying that we were pretty well set going into it. And I think this is the exact same. We're pretty well set, but fine margins. Like, I think we've got to sort of just block off Vardy a little bit, really, and do a little bit better. And it was a great save from Martinez. And Mavadidi sort of goes through Cash's legs and goes through. I think it goes through Martinez's legs as well. But this is fantastic here. This is so good for Maatsen, because Maatsen has got that desire, pace, and aggression to want this ball. He wants that ball. He has come on the pitch to change the game. And I think his mindset and his mentality to win that ball was brilliant. So he wins the ball. And what he does, gets in front of the Leicester player, and he plays a nice little pass to Jacob Ramsey. Ramsey has really good vision, and he's able to just slip Maatsen in through there. But what Maatsen has to do is he has to ride a little bit of a player's body to get through, to be into this position through here now. And he's able to get to the byline, but he's not only got to the byline, he's not lost his head, he's not smashed it, he's not looked to pick out a specific player. He's put it into an area, and he's gone, bury it. Someone run onto that and bury it. And it's so good for Maatsen, because the composure there, for the weight of pass, for the delivery, is absolutely brilliant. I watched the game before. I watched the 12:30 game, and Spurs had a moment where I think it was Brennan Johnson had got to the byline and he smashed it across the box. And then I think it was Reguilon smashed it across the box as well. It was just a lack of composure. But Maatsen in this scenario does really, really well. And Bailey's able to just run onto it and hit it into the back of the net. So really good stuff for Maatsen. And I do think he's deserving to be playing more minutes than what he is. And I do think for what I spoke about at the start of the episode, to offer us with more width, I think Maatsen is the answer to that. I don't think our forward line is sort of tragically bad, but I just think we need to just find the balance to complement it a little bit more. We do miss a lot of chances, and we do need to make sure we are finishing them. But I just think Maatsen's attributes just suit what we want him to do. So I really want to see him starting. I want to see more of him, because I think there's a real top player there. And I think Maatsen and Pau isn't probably the best combination on that sort of left-hand side, whether you're defending. But I think with Tyrone Mings in there, I think it gives us that a lot more of an aerial solid base. I think you saw from the ground duels that Mings and Constance were winning as well. It should allow a player like Maatsen to be able to sort of be a little bit more expressive as well. And towards the end of the game, we had an absolute disaster in this scenario when Bailey's hit the bar, when Deer's not got good contact on it, and he's arcing back again. He's got to get his head over the ball, Watkins has, because he should absolutely be burying this chance. So again, I thought in the second half, as the game was going on, when he was running in behind, I thought Watkins was really good, but he's just got to finish these chances. He's just got to make sure he gets his head over the ball. And yeah, arcing back. He's probably tried to hit that too perfect. If he'd have probably like sliced that, he's probably going in the top corner. So yeah, I think yeah, it just needs to start finishing these chances that he's getting as well. So um, yeah, I think even though parts of that game were pretty poor, especially the first half, for what Emery's trying to build and how we're trying to play, there are still a lot of positives within a lot of these performances. But I think it's just fine tuning, and I think it's just sort of just not always getting stuck playing the same player. Like we've played Barkley against Leicester, and he was absolutely brilliant. So even though we could mix it around and fine tune things a little bit, it shows that we can add certain players and it works well. So hopefully against West Ham in the FA Cup, we're going to play Maatsen anyway. If there is going to be rotation to the team, so that should be pretty good to see Maatsen. Obviously, it's disappointing to see McGinn have an injury. So the big thing for McGinn is that he's probably now going to miss the Celtic game. What the same 4 weeks with a hamstring injury. So uh, yeah, that's frustrating as well. But I think 10 unbeaten at home in the Premier League is another really good record. We've only lost once this season in the Premier League at home. So it is a fortress. It is a difficult place to go. Teams are coming to Villa to make it really difficult. They're not sort of all just coming and trying to have a go because they know we can slice them open. So yeah, it's about finding different ways to win. And I think Maatsen is a different way for us to win as well. So, Villa fans, let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts on the Maatsen conversation. I just want to say personally, thanks to everyone that's been watching a lot of the transfer episodes. You've all been really enjoying them. And yeah, new year, I've got a brand new concept coming as well, which I think is going to be really good for the channel. It's something completely different. So, that concept should be starting probably after the West Ham game. So that's something to keep your eyes peeled for. And yeah, just subscribe to the channel, smash the likes, comment your thoughts. Up the Villa.